There is concern about what's called the wandering officer, an officer who either loses a job or resigns at one agency and goes over to another agency.
Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost is calling for a new system to keep track of problem police officers. It's a conversation happening nationally following the death of George Floyd and others at the hands of officers.
Yost says one solution would be to institute stricter licensing requirements statewide. He also wants to see more funding for police training. Our 5 on Your Side investigator Joe Paganakis going in depth tonight. Joe, does Ohio already have this kind of licensing system?
Well, law enforcement experts tell me Ohio police officers already technically are licensed by a state certification, but Attorney General Yost wants higher licensing standards to make it easier to remove the small number of officers from their jobs who have serious disciplinary issues or who aren't competent. During his annual law enforcement conference, Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost pushed for Ohio police officers to meet higher licensing review requirements when it comes to their conduct. Cedarville University professor and former Cleveland Police Chief Patrick Oliver agrees. Oliver says if an officer lost their job at one police department due to misconduct and then applies for a job with another department,
that should trigger a review by the State Peace Officer Standard and Training Board to determine whether they want to decertify that officer or not.
An issue that was part of the 2014 fatal police shooting of 12-year-old Tamir Rice. Cleveland officer Timothy Lohman says he shot Rice because he thought the boy's toy gun was real. Cleveland police hired Lohman, even though police records showed he was let go by the Independence Police Department 2 years earlier due to emotional immaturity. Oliver says there are other police conduct issues that should put an officer's continued employment under scrutiny.
Involved in assault or drunk driving or domestic violence, it should trigger a license review.
Cleveland State Chief Diversity Officer Ronnie Dunn agrees an officer's disciplinary record should be part of the review process, but Dunn believes accountability should be taken one step further.
But along with that, we need data collection on all police-initiated interactions, traffic stops, pedestrian.
Both Professor Dunn and Professor Oliver believe more funding for police training is needed here in Ohio, especially when it comes to mental health, conflict management, and cultural bias training.
Implicit bias training is crucial because we all have implicit bias, and that's hidden bias we have, but we don't recognize we have it. And so every peace officer needs to understand that, get training on that.
And both professors believe Ohio should look at increasing the educational requirements for police cadets, moving that requirement beyond a high school diploma.
All right, sounds good, Joe. Both the governor and the attorney general now are asking for increased police standards. Let's get real. How soon could we actually see them?
Well, Attorney General Yost's office told me more is coming soon on the issues of police licensing and funding, Rob. But those issues and others will need to be addressed by the General Assembly, with both the House and Senate set to start the fall session next week.
Joe Paganakis reporting live tonight. Thank you, Joe.